Water landings of large aircraft are extremely rare. If one happens, all the world usually knows within a few hours. I'm sure all of you have heard of Captain Sully Sullenberger's astonishing ditching on the Hudson River. But have you heard about the crew of a Boeing 737 that had to ditch their aircraft off the coast of Hawaii last year in 2021? Today, we're going to take a closer look at the case of Transair Flight 810. Welcome to Airspace. First off, let's quickly find out who Transair actually is, because I'm sure that many of you have never heard of that airline. Trans Executive Airlines is an American airline that has its headquarters at Honolulu, Hawaii. It operates 6 short 360 aircraft that look kind of funny to me, as well as 4 Boeing 737-200s in cargo configuration. As a side note, be advised that the aircraft I used to visualize this accident is a 737-700. The planes used by Transair are, as I said, 737-200s, which are still fitted with older JT8D engines. Now, let's take a look at the accident flight. At precisely 1:33 a.m. on July 2, 2021, Transair Flight 810 began its takeoff roll on Honolulu's runway 8 right. But almost immediately after liftoff, the crew of the Boeing 737 reported that their aircraft had suffered an engine failure, and as a consequence, they declared an emergency immediately. Unfortunately, the radio call was not heard since other communications were happening on the radio frequency at the same time, leading to a garbled transmission that could not be understood. After several attempts, the pilots were finally able to convey the nature of their emergency. Without haste though, they initially tracked away from the airport and towards the sea while running the checklist related to the failed engine. So far, all of this is a pretty abnormal situation, if you will. After an engine fails, pilots will usually slowly climb using maximum or almost maximum power on the remaining engine. As the aircraft slowly climbs, the pilot monitoring will run a checklist to secure the failed engine. This checklist usually comprises, among other things, shutting off all fuel and electrical supply to the stricken power plant or, in certain cases, attempting a restart of it. But as the pilots headed out towards the sea, the situation suddenly became much worse. In an agitated voice, the pilot that handled the radio requested to return immediately and straight to the airport because now they appeared to be losing the second engine as well. As it would seem, the remaining engine was unable to provide maximum thrust for an extended period of time. It was overheating and prone to failure at any moment. Immediately, the aircraft was given directions back to Honolulu. By now, the aircraft was only at 1,200 feet or 365 meters above the ocean. It failed to climb higher than 2,200 feet or 670 meters at any time before that. Now, the pilots turned back to the airport as the remaining engine slowly started to disintegrate. When it finally failed, communications with the aircraft became understandably more frantic as the pilots struggled to find the airport in the dark night.
Rhoades Express 810, do you have the airport in sight?
Negative.
And Rhoades Express 810, low altitude alert. Are you able to climb at all?
No, negative.
Rhoades Express 810, roger. Proceed direct to the airport and you are cleared to land any runway.
We need a heading.
Rhoades Express 810, heading 060.
060.
As the 737 finally tracked towards the airport, the air traffic controller let the pilots know that the trucks were rolling, which is slang for the fact that emergency services are responding. In response, the pilots told her that she'd rather advise the Coast Guard since they were unable to maintain altitude. In an attempt to provide help to the pilots, the air traffic controller also suggested that the pilots may attempt to land at Kahului Airport, a few miles west of Honolulu's main airport. The pilots were initially unable to find that airport as well, but started turning towards it after the air traffic controller provided them with a heading. But ultimately, all efforts were in vain. Still in turn towards Kahului, the plane vanished from radar screens. The pilots managed to put the plane down on the water, even though it must have been pitch black outside, save for the landing lights that illuminated the dark waters. When the 737 touched down in the darkness of the night, it broke apart and its engines were ripped off. After a long hour in the water, the pilots were luckily spotted by crewmen of a Coast Guard helicopter. One was on the tail and the other clinging to packages, the Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander stated after the operation. As the rescue helicopter got close, the airplane began to sink, putting the individual on the tail in the water. Quickly, divers jumped out of the helicopter to assist the 2 pilots. The 58-year-old captain was in critical condition, while the 50-year-old first officer was in serious condition with a head injury and multiple lacerations. Both were treated and were able to leave the hospital a few days later. The aircraft and all its cargo that had been destined for Maui sank in the waters of Mamala Bay, about 2 miles or 3 kilometers short of Kahului Airport. It was found by investigators a week after the crash at depths between 360 and 420 feet, that's 110 to 130 meters. Footage from the remotely operated underwater vehicle showed that the 737 indeed broke apart just in front of the wings. Since the aircraft came to rest at quite a substantial depth, the recovery operation was somewhat complicated. But 4 months after the crash, the NTSB was finally able to recover the majority of the downed airliner. Now, at this point, I would usually tell you exactly what investigators found during the study of the wreckage and the black boxes, but unfortunately, the investigation into the matter has not yet concluded. Still, I won't let you hang in completely. Already on the day of the crash, the FAA initially grounded Transair's one remaining operational 737-200 since they found maintenance and safety deficiencies that apparently warranted this step. Transair was allowed to continue to operate its fleet of short 360 aircraft. But on May 25, 2022, the FAA finally moved to revoke the complete air operator certificate of Transair. This certificate is of course needed to operate, and its revocation is the next best thing to a death sentence for an airline. The reasons for this drastic action seem warranted, however. According to the FAA, it did not even revoke the certificate because of the ditching, but rather because of the many factors leading up to it. The company allegedly failed to maintain safety management system records or to address issues the FAA found with its General Operations Manual. It furthermore did not conduct proper safety risk management when addressing discrepancies in aircraft loading, weight and balance and runway analysis manuals, failed to provide revised manuals to the FAA, and failed to provide safety risk management documentation when it submitted its administration manual. But finally, the last straw was something that might give a clue as to what happened in this accident. The agency found that Transair had operated 2 Boeing 737s more than 900 times without adding the aircraft to its maintenance and inspection program. 33 flights were conducted when the 737s concerned were not airworthy due to engine compressor fan blades that did not meet manufacturer standards. Also, the airline conducted improper maintenance work on engine compressor fan blades and failed to properly document the work. These fan blades contained in the core of the engine are highly sensitive and require diligent and careful maintenance. Of course, the investigation in the matter is not completed yet, so it would be unprofessional to provide a definitive reason for this crash. But, as an educated guess based on the facts given, I would presume that the crew of the accident 737 suffered an engine failure after a poorly maintained, decades-old engine failed right after takeoff. After that, the crew applied maximum power on the remaining engine, which should be fine under normal conditions. Here, however, the remaining engine probably also failed due to being poorly maintained. Without engine power, the 737 was doomed at low altitude, too far away from an airport. In the end, it found a watery and violent end, in which, by chance, nobody got killed. But, again, this is all speculation. Do you agree with my thesis, or do you think something else might be at play here? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe and turn on the bell icon, or join my Patreon if you would like to support the channel. I offer many cool benefits for as little as $3 a month, and you help me keep this channel alive. That said, thank you so much for watching, and see you all in the next one.